Hello, my name's Kevin Eva. I'm one of the presenters of Last Minute Kickout, otherwise known as LMKO, for Last Minute Continue. What follows is a special program that we recorded before AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view, where we looked back a year later on what we thought AEW needed to do, what was the good things about the promotion, everything that basically had transpired between this show and the last time we looked at AEW's progress, back when we also had a guest on the show. This, of course, took place before not just everything that happened with Winter is Coming and how things have rather dramatically changed within the promotion over the last 2 months, but also, of course, before the very untimely passing of Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, also known as Luke Harper, within WWE. Please bear that in mind when you hear what we have to say about Dark Order and obviously what we hope Brodie's path would end up being. Rest in peace, Brodie. Thank you.
Everybody, and welcome to Last Minute Kickout here. A very special Last Minute Kickout episode for you guys listening either on the podcast or watching here on the YouTubes as we go reminisce a year of AEW here on the channel with the lovely hosts, the co-hosts, along with me. I am John Turbo Finley, along with the Kevin Eva. Hello.
The definitive article, Kevin Eva, everybody.
And Pete, Titans Creed, Nevico here.
Watch your scrubs.
So yes, AEW. 1 year of AEW is, I think it's like...
It's just over a year.
No, just over a year. All right, because we got... this is being recorded just before Full Gear.
Yeah, we're about a week, 2 weeks out of their anniversary show, I believe.
At the time of recording, yeah.
And there has been a lot of ups and downs for this company. Of course, obviously, the current pandemic obviously hasn't helped too well for it, obviously. But what can we say has been the moments that we can talk about during this whole year? Pete, I believe you've got the floor on this.
I mean, in terms of how the company started, like AEW started off very strong. You'll probably remember we did a show back last year. We had Greg on actually where we were talking about the prelude to AEW actually starting, which was like a big thing we were talking about. And it actually felt different because they were showcasing people every week. On Dynamite, they were building up because there was no real championships at that point. But now we're to the point where, you know, obviously the world being on fire hasn't helped the entire situation of how you can actually do things. But it feels a lot like their storylines and plot writing at the moment has gone into deep WWE territory, you know? And I think the thing that really etched this into stone is when Cody left to go do the TV deal, came back and then instantly won the championship. Like, obviously he was not going to be losing it regardless, but he's come back, he's won it. Brodie's disappeared, and I think it would have been best to just like change the tack and just let Brodie keep it, because it was building Brodie. Like, what had Brodie been at that point? Just the leader of the Dark Order. He was just your atypical big man. He won the belt, and he was a monster the way that he got put over on Cody.
That's true. Like because as AEW as a whole, it's been kind of like the the safety bed for a lot of a lot of WWE superstars that got released during after the pandemic.
You got to remember, like a lot of the people. I think there's like one or two exceptions, but these are guys that have worked together on the indie scene, Japan, various places. They've worked with each other. So like, if WWE is going to mistreat them and they're all kept in communication, then there's going to be something to know. And they want to give their friends opportunities and dues, which is fair enough. That's how they want to run their company. It builds up a decent star power because they're going to get some viewers which are going to move over from product to product to look for different things, and it's good to have competition. My problem is where the fact that it just feels like we're just falling into the same sort of story type things. Like they say that the wrestlers, like there's hit points that they want the wrestlers to talk about in promos. There's no scripting essentially for their promos or anything else, but the storylines in general just feel the same. Like, personally, it's nice that Jon Moxley's been given the title and been given a run with it. Do I think he's a credible champion at this point? No. Do I think Jericho was a credible champion? Yes. And it's not because they're not of any different caliber. They're both within their own rights to hold that belt. But Moxley's done nothing that I feel deserves to keep it. And I feel like he doesn't feel like he is the head of the table, so to speak, when you think about AEW. Like, when you want to think about a company, you want to think about their world champion. Now, if I think about WWE, my brain's instantly going to go to Reigns and Orton the champion. But Moxley doesn't feel like he is the first person you think about when you look at AEW at the moment. And I feel the problem is a lot that they're trying to build credible champions rather than trying to do what's probably best at that moment, and they're trying to stick to their guns with how they want to do things. Do I think Cody should be TNT champion right now? No. Do I think Cody should have won the TNT championship back? No. Do I think Jon Moxley should have lost that title about 2 months ago? Yes, absolutely. I think they should have given it to somebody else, and they could have let multiple feuds run wild. Now, it's nice that we're getting the idea of people coming up and feuding with Jon Moxley. I think that's good. Unknowns to a lot of people that have been on the indie scene for forever, like Eddie Kingston and you're gonna have to forgive me, the Murder Hawk guy and everything else with Jake the Snake and everything else. But these are guys, like, could they have won the belt off Moxley? Yes. But could they have been a credible champion and be the first person you thought about when you think about the company? No. Like, Jericho did a good point of doing that, but I don't think he even had a rematch against Moxley. He just lost the champion and moved on. Like, okay, if that's the way you want to do it, but you want to make Moxley the figurehead of your company, then there has to be stuff that happens for him to show that he's going to be that figurehead that you trust in. And I don't know his work rate or his promo rate or how he feels like there, but from when I look at the company, I feel like the heavyweight championship at this point is an afterthought. And I feel if you look at the rest of the company that we see on Dynamite and Dark, everything, the women's division, which we got told was going to be amazing, it was going to be just as well regarded as the men's, is in the toilet. Like, there's a match on Full Gear that's happening, which is Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, which has had no build. It's just happened because the two people they were going to put their women's division on, being Britt Baker and their Bailey clone person thing, who left the company that went to Impact and then
and she's just Smiley Kylie Ray.
Yeah, yeah, Kylie Ray. Like, she left. Britt Baker got injured, and then they put the belt on Nyla Rose. Good opportunity. There were some good matches that happened, but since Hikaru's had the belt, we've had a couple of matches where we know the title's not going to ship because we know it's not going to go to NWA. And, there's been various other things, and now we're just back into another feud with Nyla Rose off the back of nothing. We've had attack, and like the last couple of weeks of Dynamite alone have just been championship playoffs. We've had the tag team tournament, and then we've had a singles tournament, and it feels like there's not been enough cohesion to keep the shows going on the main things they want to go. It feels like because we see the TNT Championship pretty much defended every other week on Dynamite at the moment, because the focus is on the single and the tag tournaments to go for the belts and everything else, that everything else falls to the wayside. You know, there's not a lot there. Will it get better after Full Gear, where we have Paige or Omega going for the championship? Probably, because if it's Omega, there'll probably be more camera and mic time between Omega and Moxley, because it's another rematch between those two leading up into that. But it just feels like Moxley feels like an afterthought in the position that he's at. He's got a lovely title belt, probably the best any of us have ever seen for the longest time, but he doesn't feel like he's the forefront of the company, which is where he should be. And that's my big problem, is it feels like even the storylines don't feel that far outside of what I'd expect from watching a WWE show.
So from what I can feel from your kind of like, attitude to the general kind of like structure of how AEW's handled their first year, you feel as though it's not been the best of years.
I think it started
I
think it started well. I just think it's fumbled too much in the middle, and I feel like it's not that strong at the moment. And maybe a big part of that is the pandemic and forcing, breaking up a lot of the storylines. But as I've had discussions elsewhere with other people, we're all of the same thought that it's been long enough that they could have changed these storylines to fit purpose with who they have. And the only thing I can ever see that with is with the fact that Eddie Kingston has picked up the Lucha Brothers, because Pac's not there. Yeah. And we know that Kingston's not going to win the belt, because Kingston's going to probably come back and have a thing with Pac after Full Gear for the sake of the Lucha Bros. And that's probably going to end up being a 6-way between Eddie Kingston and the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, and Pac and the Lucha Bros.
Kevs, what's your thoughts on AEW's first year? Are they similar
I am very similar in mind to Pete, in that there's been issues going on that we've all known about, that should have been addressed by now. And that's not just the talent point of view. The women's division in particular was very much a West meets East situation, and the pandemic is partly responsible for that falling apart. The other part of reason for that falling apart is Omega just doing a really crap job at booking it. Is that because Riho isn't there, keeping his focus on things? Who knows? But hey, remember Riho? We haven't seen her for ages because of the pandemic and everything that's going on. So it's such a mess, that division, and it needs sorting out. We've had everything that's been like stop, start, back and forth. The Nightmare Sisters, we've had Ali going from Bunny to herself to Nightmare Sister to back to Bunny. No rhyme nor reason. Yet at the same time, from the good point of view, you've got things like Dark Order. Join the Dark Order. Which has been allowed to develop in its own way through being the elite. Being the elite's really good, just from a character building point of view. Rest of it,
Being the elite is more storyline focused and remembers exactly the stories it wants to tell better than both AEW main programming and WWE main programming.
Absolutely. But it's great. It's a great way to get people over within character and give them time outside of everything to set stuff up. Most of the storylines within AEW are set up within being the elite, and that's really good. The best, and there's other stuff that's been going on with us going to the pandemic. I'm so disappointed we never got to see Death Triangle. As you say, it's great. I completely agree with Pete about Moxley in every sense of the word, and indeed Cody. We've not long, guys, but we've just filmed Hell in a Cell's review, and we've done predictions for Full Gear, as Pete said earlier. But Well, and one of the things we said about that was the TNT one. I think both of you guys went for Darby, and I went for Cody. Darby should have that belt because Darby's gonna be Darby's your Jeff Hardy in that the crowd latches onto because of what he does and his look and his gimmick and everything.
Well, here's the thing: it's like I've interacted with someone that I kind of like know from a store and whatnot, and they have a partner who watches the product and whatnot, and they love Darby Allin. They absolutely love it, and they're totally connected to the character because of how he is of that counterculture kind of like coolness as such, So he is that character that can grab an audience for his style and his kind of like connections and stuff like that. So I understand that.
Yeah. The best thing about AEW is just how damn enjoyable it is. Going back to that, what we were talking about with Hell in a Cell beforehand, with the matches in between. The matches in between on that card meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even the US Championship match meant nothing. They weren't fun. They weren't enjoyable. AEW is 9 times out of 10 enjoyable to watch. We've had one pay-per-view where it's not been enjoyable to watch, and that was partly due to the situation with Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara and it all going to shit. Mm-hmm. And it just being this ripple effect after that, in that it just no one could enjoy it at all. It's generally always enjoyable, regardless of there being no build or what have you. It's generally fun and enjoyable matches. It's great to see new people coming in and being intrigued by AEW's presentation of wrestling because it is more fun based. Our good friend from LMC, TA Black, Ian, he's an avid watcher now of AEW stuff. And he wasn't into wrestling at all before, but he watched a couple of the matches, and I think it was probably one of my favourite matches that they've had in the entirety of this year, which was Pac Orange Cassidy. That I think that entire thing, it's strange in a way that the two matches that really stick in my mind are 2 Orange Cassidy matches, and one of them's the Pac one because it's like yes it's the sloth guy, but he was Fire Ant, and he's still got all that in there. So when you've got the intensity of Pac meeting this guy, and actually the sheer disdain that both are showing in their individual ways, it was really exciting to watch as a match, as a spectacle. But even the other one is, strangely, the Mimosa Mayhem match with Jericho. What a match that deserved to be absolutely crap and wasn't. And that's a testament to Jericho, probably more than anything on that one. But that just shows you that they can go. AEW can go to the ridiculousness, and yet it still be enjoyable to me as a viewer. The thing that they need to stop. We criticise WWE for their production values. Dear God, AEW need to do something about their production issues. Whether it's randomly videos going off, or music happening, or pyro going off, or the wrong person's come out, or the person's come out before they've been introduced, as what happened with our good friend, the leader of the Dark Order, when he was revealed, when he literally just came out, and it was still on camera as they were doing the reveal, and the video was supposed to come in. There's so many issues with the production. And it's a case of, you've had a year now, you need to clean that crap up. Mm-hmm. AEW should be better than WWE in the sense of entertainment, equal in presentation, and it should be holding a different standard based upon what WWE have been doing for the past 25 years, and that we all, as a whole, have said needs to stop or needs to improve. I think they've done half of that and not the other.
I think one of the biggest problems right now in terms of AEW programming versus WWE programming is that with WWE programming, and this is going to be very different because we're British individuals, we get all of our television from like one source in terms of that. We don't have to flip between channels like the US do. But if I want to watch WWE programming, I'll just go watch it on a given channel, you know. And then if I want the network stuff, it'll be on the network. But if I want to stay on top of anything to do with AEW, I've got to watch AEW on the given channel. I've then got to go to YouTube on a given day to watch BTE.
And Dark.
I've got to go to YouTube for Dark. There's masses of individual vlogs that a lot of the guys do as well. Like
Sammy stuff.
Got his own
Matt
stuff as well. Matt Hardy. Like, if you want a lot of stuff, you've got to keep in tune with like so much more stuff. And yes, you can argue that it's all on YouTube, with the exception of Dynamite and the pay-per-views. But
even Shot of Brandy now.
Yeah,
last Shot of Brandy had a storyline element to it.
There's my problem is so much all over the place, and it's not condensed. Like, I mean, obviously they're not going to have the thing of, like, they're not going to have the AEW network where you can just watch all the programming there, you know, like that's not going to happen for like a long time until they spread their wings, you know, and get a big. But like, I feel like with the programming they have now, their roster's far too bloated, and they feel like they're big enough to get into talent wars with WWE at the moment as well.
Bizarrely, they've almost got like an ECW issue from back in the day, in that they can't grow fast enough. They're trying to grow, they couldn't grow fast enough initially, and now they're a bit bloated, and they need to go somewhere else. They were going to have this other day, which has now gone on the back burner. They're going to have this other programming, and it's gone on the back burner, and now they're kind of stuck.
It almost feels like we need like a dark and an after dark, you know, like there needs to be like that secondary YouTube show.
Well, we're now getting, again at the time of recording, there's like an extra dark. We're getting like extra darks occasionally. So there's a special dark coming up on YouTube at some point during the next week or so, apparently. So they're trying to get stuff in that way, but it is like trying to. It's the best metaphor I can give you is AEW is trying to fill a suitcase and they've got too many clothes. So it's all bursting out, and it's, you know, it's not set properly. It's not a full and secure thing.
John, what are your thoughts?
It is all over the place with it. I mean, taking your kind of like thoughts on board as well. It's like me. It's like it is like back and forth, because I kind of have some enjoyment with the program, with the product of AEW, though, like how they kind of like, I mean, like I like how they hold on to certain legacy stuff, and then sometimes not at the same time, because you've had like you've had a lot of kind of like legacy comebacks, like you've had Tully Blanchard come back into into wrestling. You've had Shivani come into wrestling through commentary. Same for Jim Ross on commentary. But those two, but sometimes those two can be pretty bad at times. Taz came back to the product with through AEW. Jake the Snake being manager for one of the up and coming stars. Diamond Dallas Page having his having a match in his sixth decade of of in the business is crazy and whatnot, and that was through AEW and whatnot. But then but it's like, you're right, they haven't really been structuring their product quite well with what they have in terms of future talent. They have done it for some talent, like Orange Cassidy. I think Orange Cassidy has been one of the best that they've built up for during that year, because he's been entertaining. And when he goes, he bloody goes, and it showed, especially with the match against Pac and Jericho.
That in particular, I know we keep going back to it, but that in particular is a great way of showing how AEW can tack with the wind in terms of the audience.
my problem with how they're building things is, and this is nothing against Orange Cassidy as a whole, right? I could quite easily see Cassidy with the TNT Championship, yeah, at one point. But can you see Cassidy with the heavyweight belt?
No.
So
but he doesn't need to.
He
is mid card.
He's having main event. He's having main event level feuds, but he's never be in that main event spot. He is literally Chris Jericho in the noughties.
The great thing about Cassidy, though, is that while he is that mid card wrestler, and that he can be the top star of your mid card, he's got enough traction with the audience because AEW hasn't done a WWE and just completely stuffed the thing. In that he, at various points, he can do that step up. So you can have him have a feud with the top guy and then go back down into the mid card, and that won't damage Orange Cassidy, and that will help the person who's actually the champion at the time. He's actually good. He's at one of those wrestlers that can sort of go between without any issues.
But yeah. But going back to how they kind of like structure, yeah, I agree. Like their women's division has not been very strong in any way, shape, or form. Even pre-pandemic, I feel as though they've definitely dropped the ball when it came to
the fact that there's a rumor of women's tag championships for AEW as well.
Oh, they need to they really need to kind of like.
I think
Brandy shot it down. In that probably, but not yet.
Like, if they're gonna do it, and I hate to say it because we hate Raw for it, but they need to have a 3-hour main show if they were gonna do that.
Well, they just need a stronger division. That's the thing.
I'm almost saying like they've got enough of a roster that they could quite easily do that, and then that would solve all of the problems we're having. And having one 3-hour show is like you have one 3-hour show. What's Dark? 2 hours? An hour? 2 hours?
It fluctuates, I think.
It fluctuates.
Yeah.
But then you're already back onto like Raw and SmackDown alone. And I don't know about you guys, but I literally just watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, and the pay-per-views. I don't watch anything in between. I might watch BTE because it's like literally a 20-minute video on YouTube, you know? But
do you have a women's version of Dark?
What do you mean? Do I?
Yeah, do you personally, in that hoodie, do you have a women's version of Dark?
Well, here's the thing. They've got they have an extra program. They like TNT obviously has commissioned AEW to have another program on their network to AEW. Have that be, have some kind of like bigger influence for the women's division on that secondary program.
My biggest problem with this entire women's division conversation is that they've structured it that they want to have this they want it to be on par with the tag division and the singles division, yeah?
And that's what they tried to do with that tournament.
They've gone so far as to promote an entire thing for AEW to women with the AEW heels thing. But we barely see anything of the women on like I think the most of any of the AEW women that I see is the one of them that's with the Dark Order. And I love her because she's kicking Stu Grayson's ass every week.
It's strange. I think it maybe like 30-minute Dark-like program which just focused on the women would actually be a good thing. So that was entirely focused on that and could build up stuff with like you're being, because you don't really see the women on Being the Elite either, do you? Because it's all buddy, a bit jocular. Have just like a YouTube women's program. You can still have the women on Dynamite and Dark, but just have something that can focus. Focus is something that's so lacking.
It really does feel like the women's division on AEW is like the most lackluster thing at the moment, and I want to see more of it because fucking hell, I'm quite sure like out of the pay-per-views that we've talked about, the women's matches have been fucking amazing, and I want to see more of that.
Those early shows that we covered,
yeah,
we talked about the women's matches for ages because there was so much detail. There was lots of comparison in terms of how it was booking in the strength.
Yeah, and of course they had the talent for it, but of course because of the pandemic, obviously we kind of like lost that talent,
Well,
essentially.
but then it goes back to what Pete was saying, in that they should have used this time to build up the people you've got who are there, and really hard focus on them. So when you've got the likes of Riho and everybody else coming back in, it's like, aha, it's the return of Riho and everybody else.
I mean,
and then you've
we've
got
had
the
this-
actual AEW born and bred lot who are strong and have a credible threat against, all the others. And the only ones they've done that close to is Nyla Rose.
The last big build we had in the women's division was the return of Britt Baker and Big Swole. And ever since that's finished, we haven't seen hide nor hair of Big Swole, not even on BTE.
No.
And Britt Baker's appeared here and there, and that's it.
Yeah. No,
After that
they
match,
do
though, I'm
need to
quite happy they haven't.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's still needing to be getting on with their with all of their divisions. I mean, they just need to. I think obviously within this year there's been a lot of bumps and whatnot. I feel as though that it can probably be rectified in the following year, with how they go forward. Hopefully with if they can get their like especially for the women's division, obviously get that like better finited with better stories and whatnot, and because their tags fine. The men's division can be good. The ranking stuff, it could be a bit muddled at times because there has been some confusions with who's in contention with championships and stuff like that, and it could be a little better kind of like cleared up and whatnot. But overall for the whole year that they've been on this product and whatnot, it's been all right. It's just a couple of trip ups here and there that they could definitely work on a little bit more, and hopefully they'll rectify down the line. And we will see that for year 2. All the best for AEW. They're going to, keep it up, guys. Because you got supporters in us 3.
Watching.
You're right, because if there's one thing I think that we would agree on with AEW, is that they care what we think. Mm-hmm. They care about and they care about entertaining us, and they want us to have a good time. That's not necessarily something all the time you can say about WWE, because it's part of an overall global marketing plan.
This goes back to the problem that I've been stating. Like, WWE is an ancient dinosaur in comparison to AEW. AEW has fresh, younger brains at the mindset of it. But we're getting WWE level storylines and thinking of it. And that therein lies my issue with AEW as a whole right now. It's had more ups than downs, and it's been exciting. But it's now the excitement I was expecting. And I think Taz said it pretty much the best on Dynamite this week. Like, there are belts, and there are guys that are in contention for the belts because they want to use this ranking system, but they're not using the ranking system. Mm-hmm. So
Taz as the serious guy has been an absolute joy, by the way. Taz is, proper analysing of everything, analysing of the opponents and his own wrestler's skill, and treating it super seriously, has been great. Really enjoyed it. And the fact that, he is the one that's coming out there and dropping some, truth bombs about how things are being organised is good, and it makes sense with his character. It makes sense that he's sticking up for his guys.
I feel like we need to, in terms of the singles matches, then we need to be, especially for the heavyweight belt, you've got a lot of people who are hungry for the belt, like as shown by like Cage. Do I think they deserve to be a champion? Not yet. They obviously need a lot more work, but these are guys that have the opportunity to show off what they can do. And if you're not that ready for them to be pushed into then you make it. Like, the idea of the triple threat match is that you have the guys that you want to do, but you have somebody there that's there to pick up the slack and make it as entertaining as you can, because you've got someone you can rely on as another workhorse in that match. You know, they're there to build it up and make it just that little bit more exciting, and they can do that. They've got enough guys that are interested in going for the belt, you know. But what do we have? We've had 8 guys going through a tournament, you know, that haven't shown interest in going for the belt other than saying we're going to be doing singles runs and everything else like that. But then you've got Team Taz, you know, saying like, you know, this is our win record in 2020. You know, we've lost 10 out of my 11 last matches. Why aren't I getting a title shot? You know, there are guys that are putting forward the case that they want to be champion and they deserve to have that shot, but they're not in the tournament.
It's good, and the thing is about, again, the good thing about AEW in that sense is that they will acknowledge it.
Yeah,
and they will try and do something about it, which is kind of good.
But it's stuff like this. Like, if they're going to have the ranking system and they want to rely on it, they have to use it. They can't just do storylines for the sake of doing storylines which overwrites everything else, which is what it feels like, that they've just been continuing the idea of their storylines regardless of what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
But
No,
I think that's a good point to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do a little thing actually before Turbo wraps things up. Normally not that. Not the pictures for the thumbnail yet, Pete. I know he's practicing. Look at him, he's practicing.
Dark Order.
No, we've already done that one. So we would normally, for a pay-per-view, rank the pay-per-view out of 10, right? I want you guys to give me a grade for AEW's first year. So from A star or A plus, whatever you like, down to, let's say, E. Pete, how would you, starting with you, how would you grade AEW's first year as a proper wrestling
I'm just going to plant it surely in the middle. C.
A C.
Yeah,
A good old C.
It's purely watchable content at this point. There are some interesting things that I enjoy when I'm watching it. And if you join the Last Minute Continued Discord, you can come and join the conversations there. But there are lots of things that are enjoyable, but there are a lot of problems which I've talked about, and I really hope they get fixed.
I'm going to give it a B minus. For the same reasons, really, that Pete just said. There's things that are very, very enjoyable. There's obvious problems that need to be fixed, but they're at least going in the right direction in terms of where I want AEW to end up being. It's not there yet, and it needs some work, needs some direction. But apart from that, Turbo, what's your grade? And then we can round this thing up.
Yeah, basically, I was gonna agree with you. There's with B minus with the same kind of like comments there. So it's quite easily the fact that we have general interest for the AEW product to be great, and it has some great moments, but of course, just needs a little bit more work to do with it. So yeah, I think that's fair enough. Pete with the C. Me and Kev with the B minuses. We hope that AEW's second year can be slightly higher in grade, and hopefully we'll see some improvement, and hopefully things will be better overall. But overall, it's okay for the moment. Let's see what happens going forward. So with that all said, I think that's us for the episode here. For myself, John Turbo Finley, for Kevin Eva, for Pete Nevikov.
Join the Dark Order.
We've been last minute Kickout. Follow us on Twitter at Faces in Peril for the whole podcast, and you can also follow our individual tags if you want to. And we will see you next time for Last Minute Kickout. Take care, everybody.